Hey, what's going on, peeps? Here we are. Here we are. We are
We're
here
live.
live on LinkedIn to do the great BANT debate. I'm here with Corey Bray. I give the dude props. He's not nervous. He's like, let's go. We're going to knock this out. Oh, I got to turn this shit down. So, all right, Corey, man, I'm going to give you the kickoff. So,
I'm not nervous. Are you wearing a seatbelt for this?
Yes, it's a seatbelt.
Oh man, so now he's shaming me. So I make a comment about his seatbelt, and he's like, "Oh no, man, I got to."
No, I was actually impressed. That was creative as shit. Like, all right, my boy's got a quick mind. I like that. This guy, I don't need to go easy on you. He's quick.
He's strapped in. That. Yes, he's strapped in. Okay, so what we're gonna do? This is fun. We're gonna do a debate. If you follow me, you know I like to debate. If you follow Keenan, you know he likes to talk trash, and we're just bringing it together. Let's go. So the whole idea is BANT. Does it work? I'm taking the position that it does. Am I the biggest BANT fan in the world? No. Am I running around saying, hey, everybody should drop what they're doing and they should start doing BANT? Absolutely not. But does it work? Absolutely it works. And I'm going to discuss how it works. Your position, sir.
Is no. Well, first we can define how it works, but I'm going to say no, it doesn't work. And I'm defining that it doesn't work is because if you use it 100 times, 9 out of 10 times, you're going to fuck it up. So i.e., can I use a screwdriver to open a can to drink? Well, I guess technically speaking, it would work, but no, that doesn't work because more times out of not, you're going to spill it, you're going to cut yourself, etc. So no, it doesn't work. So with that as the backdrop, it's not binary. Does it work? Yeah, anything can fucking work for anything, but generally speaking, no, BANT does not work, and you don't need it. That's going to be my other position, that you can sell far more without it. And here's what I'm even going to drop, because someone said it earlier, that I'm not going to come to the table with some reformulated BANT bullshit and try to pretend it's not BANT, but it's still BANT.
Change the letter guys? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes. You know what?
Oh, we know the change the letter guys. Oh, yes. It's not BANT. It's this other thing that is literally it.
Yes, 100%. Like what's his name? William Shakespeare. A rose by any other name still smells as sweet. So BANT by any other name still smells like shit. So yes, I am not going to William Shakespeare the shit. It's entirely.
I agree with that. Yeah, I think the analogy is less about the screwdriver trying to open the can and more about, can you chip with a 7-iron? If you're good at golf, you can chip with a 7-iron. Would you rather use a wedge in a lot of situations? Absolutely. But if you're good and you know what you're doing and you've had some training and you have a system and it's not raining cats and dogs outside, yeah, it can work. And the position that I'm really going to hammer on is, look, there's a lot of folks out there that are living in the system that exists today. And to abandon that and to say, this doesn't work, I need to do something else. Is that the highest priority for the organization right now? Or is there a way to do a 2-millimeter shift and make do with what works and really understand, well, how does it work? And in a world where it has to work, because it's been working since the 50s, how do we make it work? And how do we make it work in modern times where there's a lot of things happening differently today than were happening back in the 50s? Because, yeah, stuff's crazy. Like back then, it was like, oh, yeah, we show up with a briefcase and we sell stuff and they don't know anything other than what comes out of our mouth. Now they've got all kinds of data points that they're getting hit with. And if we're using just the same thing the same way, it's obviously not going to be as effective as it was back then.
All right. So with that analogy, I have a question for you, and then let's jump in.
All right.
Why would I use a 7-iron to pitch if it's not the right iron? Why would I do it?
Because you took all your wedges up to the green on the last hole and you had a couple too many beers and you left them, and that's all you got in your bag. All
right. If this is out now, this argument is going to be okay. All right, you're right. If I'm stuck on a fucking desert island and all
which is what many managers and some more senior leaders are faced with right now, where their organization has had this culture of, oh, this is what we've used in the past, this is what we're using today, and they don't have the opportunity to run back and go grab their wedges. They've got to go hit.
All right, so with that as the backdrop, I'm gonna let you jump in and start why, but I'm gonna argue that you don't have just that in the thing, because what I'm going to teach you is you can, without going back to the clubhouse, you can, it's a 2-millimeter. Well, yeah, it's a 2-millimeter shift or less actually to do something different and get better results every time.
Well, let's
go.
Yeah, and I think here's the foundation of my premise. And again,
okay,
you have a sales process. And with that sales process, you've got stages and you've got activities in each stage.
Yep.
And you've got exit criteria in order to move to the next stage. And that forms It's how we do business. That's how we forecast. That's how we make sure that the salespeople are doing the right activity at each given time. And if you take BANT as the tool that you have and you integrate that into your exit criteria, and you say for something to move from the prospecting stage to opportunity, it's got to have X. And to move from opportunity to needs analysis or whatever, it's got to have Y. And to move to proposal, maybe it's got to have all 4 of BANT at different levels. And I think we can get into like, what is BANT? Is it just 4 things or is it more than 4 things? We can get into that later. But if you use this as a gauge for exit criteria, which I think a lot of companies do really poorly, they don't have very clear exit criteria that are constantly inspected by management and agreed upon by everybody and adhered to by the salespeople. If you have that as your exit criteria, you're going to be better off than a lot of organizations today. I'm not saying there's not better stuff. There's definitely better stuff. I think you and I both know the better stuff, but you can use this as a way to improve the way that you're running the sales process and the exit criteria in your organization today.
Okay. So with that said, because again, like anything else, the definition dictates the outcome. So with a rough assessment of what you said here, using the golf analogy and using the stages, et cetera, that let's just jump in. And my objective is to show people that how they can do everything you're saying without using BANT and get better outcomes.
Cool. Let's do it.
All right.
Everyone's going to get better. Maybe they'll have some fun along the way. How about that?
Yeah. So I'll let you drop the first salvo.
Well, I think that the first thing is define BANT. So BANT is budget, authority, need, timeline. Mm-hmm. It's a qualification framework. It is not a sales methodology. It's always been described as a qualification framework that was created by IBM in the 1950s to help salespeople, for the most part, know where to spend their time and to help executive leadership forecast what the revenue, what the bookings was going to be for any given quarter, which is important. And then it fits into that whole idea of the stages and exit criteria. And I think that the common misconceptions around BANT are as follows. One, you've got like the idea that it has to go in order. Well, the reason it's in that order, the reason it starts with budget isn't because budget's the most important thing. It's because it's a freaking acronym that you have to say. Makes the word work.
You can't say it.
If you put exactly. It sounds like some made up, like talking with a rock in your mouth.
Yep.
Nope.
Yep. I guess NABTA didn't work either. Yep.
Yeah. And so it's not about in order. It's also not about direct, because I think a lot of the criticism of it is, yo, Keenan, what's your budget? Hey, dude, do you have a need? And nobody ever said to do that. I don't even think that's implied. Maybe it's implied to some extent, but that's not the thing. And then the last thing I'll say and flip it back to you is that each one of these letters can have depth. Mm-hmm. It's not just about one thing, budget. Cool. Like first thing is, is there an incumbent solution where you're already paying something for solving this problem and you're trying to move to something else? Or is it de novo? Or is it inbound or outbound? Obviously, if it's inbound, you can have a little more stature when it comes to qualification versus if you're going outbound to somebody and trying to BANT them in the first 12 seconds. That's another thing that people talk about. But I think that the criticism often escapes common sense and the awareness of the fundamentals as it ties to the exit criteria, like I discussed, and also the robustness and applicability to your business in the right level of depth. That's what I'm looking at.
Okay. All right. So here's where I lost BANT a long time ago. And look, I'm not gonna disagree with everything you're saying. Look, if you're gonna force someone on the seventh on a hole with only a 7-iron, they're gonna have to figure out how to use a 7th iron, right?
It's a great gambling game too, to play 7-iron golf. I haven't done this for a long time. My buddies used to do it. We used to do it in college. Like, let's go play with the 7-iron, bet whatever you bet. And this is kind of what that is to some extent, but all right, keep going. Sorry.
I can't get by. I mean, I have no problem getting behind that, but here's the problem with BANT, and I want everybody to pay attention. The very first key problem with BANT is it's extremely seller focused, and more importantly, does not attach to the fundamental psychological reasons why somebody would buy. So to use any acronym or use any approach or method that is not attached to why somebody would buy sets you up behind the 8 ball out of the gate. So it needs to be understood that when people buy something, what they're saying is they need to change. If there is no reason to change, budget, authority, need, and timing are out the window. There is absolutely no relevancy whatsoever. So when we're talking in terms of qualification, the idea that budget is somehow makes you qualified, or I'm talking to the right person, again, regardless of how you get them, let's not talk about the how right now, but just those 4 pieces of data as they stand. Those 4 pieces of data only slightly what's the word I'm looking for? Slightly correlate to the fact that I would buy something. The qualification process that I adhere to is really simple, and I tell everybody to do this. Does the customer have a problem you can fix? Does the customer acknowledge they have that problem? Will the customer fix the problem? And finally, will they go on a journey with you to fix the problem? So from a pure qualification standpoint, you have the choice of correlating elements, which are all seller focused, which do not correlate to change, will barely correlate to change, or you qualify around the concept of cause of change. And the cause of change is a problem exists. I know it, and I'm willing to fix it, and I will work with you, at least start a journey with you to fix it. If you get that from a pure qualification process on the front end, game over. That's qualified. Literally end of discussion. That's qualified. Whether I have the budget or not yet, whether or not I'm talking to the right person, need is directly correlates to that. And then timing, same thing. So that's why I hate BANT, because it doesn't attach to the actual motivational drivers and psychological elements of why people buy something in the first place.
Well, if I were an alien and came down from outer space and didn't have much emotional attachment to anything or experience, I might think that you just took the word need and called it problem, and you took the word timeline and called it journey.
Okay, so the timeline,
and added a layer of depth to it.
Okay, timeline in BANT is when do you want to do it? What's your timeline to do it? Is going along the journey. The journey is exploring the problem. Entirely different. I'm not asking you when do you want to buy this thing. I'm not even playing in the future state. Same thing with need. I don't even know that you need anything. All I need you to do is say there's a problem and you're willing to explore that problem. And through that exploration, we'll determine if you need something. And here's the crazy part. If what you need is even what I sell. Right? So it's all about exploration in the current state. It is completely defunct and void of any product, any future outcome, anything like that. It's simply, if I get a buyer to admit that, you know what it's like, with all due respect to everybody listening, it is, and I didn't know this when I wrote it, but a psychologist pointed out to me, in the world of addiction, we realize what will somebody not do to fix the addiction until what? The addiction until what?
Admit you have a problem, as they say in movies.
Right there. And that the reason that works is it requires change. We do not change until we determine we need to change. What we change to, how we do it, what the process looks like is irrelevant until we've come to a place that says, oh, snap, I can no longer stay in this place. That's why I lean to this type of selling or qualification, because it's the most profound. When the minute the buyer says, yep, I need to change, guess what happens, Corey? You don't lose the status quo very often. You may lose the competition, but you almost never lose to the status quo because you got that out of the way in the first 10% of the sales cycle. Yep. Damn it, Corey, you're right. I don't know if I'm going to buy your product. I don't know how much we're going to spend, but I do know we can't stay here anymore.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I agree with that. I think that there's three words that are kind of intersecting at the same place. So BANT says need, you're saying problem. If I had my choice of words, I would say pain. And I would also layer on the idea of metrics here, wanting to know what metrics matter that you're trying to impact. What's the current state? What's the future state? Why does it matter that we go from the current state to the future state? And take that and define need as what I just said, with BANT being a simple thing that has some depth to it, as I said earlier on.
All right, so keep going with that. Try to tie the BANT conversation into the change management conversation.
Well, the change management conversation is what pain are they trying to solve today, and what happens if they don't solve it. And
okay, so how would you use BANT to find that problem?
You use BANT. Imagine BANT's like four buckets that are empty.
Yep.
And if you go back to what IBM had stated when it's literally on the IBM website, I looked it up. They said that in their world, for an opportunity to be qualified, it had to hit 3 or 4 criteria. So when I think about hitting criteria, I think about the buckets filling up, and it's not binary. It's not like they're full or they're empty. There's some level of depth there. And I think people apply the same thing to MEDDIC and anything that's qualification framework. for example, authority. Okay, do you have a senior director that's going to put their neck on the line, or do you have a CFO that's got his pen in his hand, right? Different level of fullness for the buckets. And that's why I'm basing the whole premise on this idea of, are there stage-driven exit criteria in place? And have we defined which buckets need to be filled up and how much in order for a deal to progress to the next stage?
Okay.
That's
so let's keep playing that out, right? Let's stick in the world of BANT. I felt bad for you coming on defending BANT, but I love what you're doing. You're busting your ass. So
I love it. I'm just having fun, man. Look, I am not saying that I am running around trying to put BANT in place. I'm saying I want to have fun debates with people like you, and I want to explore topics, and let's make some good content for the peoples.
Okay, I love that. Let's make new content for the people. So let's keep playing this out because I'm intense and I like you, so I don't want to, by any sense of the imagination, unintentionally look like I'm being mean.
You don't know me. I'm as intense as you are. I go up and down. I'm like manic. I'm not manic like this. I just intensity varies. Let's go.
All right, so let's go back to that piece, right? As using all the depth you want in all the definitions you want to bring to the table. I'm gonna give you a wide open
canvas.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, I'm a mind reader.
You are. That was good. I'm gonna give you a wide open canvas.
Thank you, Coke Zero.
I need my Red Bull right now. So tell me how using BANT you would get to the problem, not the need. And you're gonna stumble there, I think, in a minute, or you're gonna get super creative. How does using BANT get you to the problem, impact, and root cause?
Well, if I've got a blank canvas, I'm not looking for problems, because problems are intellectual, pain is emotional. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm trying to understand what is the pain that is negatively impacting someone so much that they're going to be motivated to change, so much that they're going to be motivated to either spend their resources, financial or otherwise, time, whoever, political capital, or that they're going to go put their neck in line and try to get somebody else to do that. And within an organization at any time, I think this is a big problem people run into, which is they look at things like need, and they might tie that to things like inefficiency or cost, which is a fallacy, because inefficiency, companies are built off of inefficiency. You've got the Peter principle, where people are promoted to their level of incompetence, especially in these large organizations. Everything's inefficient. It's built to be inefficient, but it still works. And that's how, because the minute you start crushing at your job, you want a promotion, or you want to go work somewhere else. You want to start a business. You want to retire if you're at the top of your game. And so these companies are staffed by people that all have professional development opportunities. Therefore, they're not completely crushing it all the time. Some of them are, yes, not all of them. And so when it comes to the ideas of inefficiency or cost, tons of things are inefficient. Lots of things cost. How do you find the things that, if not solved, are going to have the biggest negative impact on the organization? And what's the bad thing that's going to happen? And then that ties, it does tie to timeline, because there's two types of projects. I mean, there's a handful of types of projects. There's things that have critical timelines associated.
Oh, yeah.
So, hey, we're going to go launch a new product, and you're a component of this new product. You're the steering wheel on the Tesla Cybertruck.
Yep.
Like, timeline matters there. Or
100%.
if it's not, some things aren't time bound. It's like, hey, we got this thing, it kind of works, whatever. We got all these issues with it. The whole idea there is, can you diagnose if those issues are painful enough to motivate them to change or not? Because there's lots of...
I agree. So to your point, I'm stuck at a company that's forcing me to use BANT as a qualification process or whatever. I'm gonna keep asking the question until I get an answer. You're like, oh, you got a good point, Keenan. How do you use BANT to get to the needs? I mean, sorry, wait. How do you use BANT to get to the internal problems and challenges they're facing?
Well, all the BANT is the bucket. It's the bucket on the floor that you're trying to fill up.
But remember, when you work in a BANT organization and they start with the qualification stage of BANT, it is driving behaviors to either directly or in some fancy magician way get to find out, does the budget exist? Is the right person? Now, here's where it really trips them up. Yeah. What do they need? And what they will tell you, every salesperson will tell you, they need a way to do this. They need to shrink expenses. They need to do blah, 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 blah. But they don't tell you what the problem is. And then they say they're looking to do it in the next 3 to 6 months. And so all this BANT is driving their behavior to those types of information.
Yeah.
How do you leverage BANT, as you see it, to actually uncover the problems, impacts, and root causes? You like to say pain. We'll have another conversation why that's not where you want to go. But anyways, how do you do that? How do you use BANT to do that?
Well, you got to know what you're looking for.
Okay.
And so there's two things. So you know what you're looking for, and you figure out what the prospect is coming to the meeting, what their agenda is at the top of the meeting. Those are two things. Can there be more? Absolutely.
I'm coming to see your software application demo.
Coming to see my software application demo. Well, that's great. Well, I probably, given that you're a person and that I know what company you work at, I know a few things about you. I know your market segment. So I know what industry you're in. I know how big your company is. I know your persona. So roughly what your job title is and all of those types of things. And then I know a few other things. I know specifically what pain points have I solved for people like you in the past. So those things exist. I've got the customer stories. I got the case studies. Hopefully I've got some sales enablement. And for each one of those pain points, I should also probably know for each one, what's the biggest impact that we can have if we solve for each one of those? Are there some of them that don't have a big impact, some that have a big impact? Are we well positioned to win if we can be the ones that can solve them? Are they things that everybody solves, or are they things that we're uniquely positioned to solve? And so you're coming to me as a person in a market of a certain industry with a certain company size of a certain persona. And I know each one of the pain points I can solve for someone like you. I'm just turning over rocks and trying to understand if you have those or not.
Okay.
So
I love that.
becomes the need.
Okay. Need.
Oh, I almost got it. See, this is the thing. He's emotionally tied to this BANT thing. He loved everything until I put a label on, and then he's like, nope.
No. I still love everything you said, but maybe we should clarify, because I do this in all my training. So maybe we have a quick sidebar. Need and problem in no way, shape, or form are the same. Period.
I mean, that's sure. It's a very okay. So here's my other problem is that I also just live in a world of equations and spreadsheets. And so when I see need and I'm like, oh, I don't like the word, it's a placeholder variable to me. So when I see N and BANT, I think pain. That's just the internal processing. That's
all right. So let's okay.
So I agree with you on that. Like, sure.
Yeah.
So it needs a dumb word.
If yours isn't BANT, but it's BAPT,
which is a stupid acronym that no one would ever use.
Yeah.
And
but actually, that there's a reason that's really powerful, and the reason you keep saying when you say need, you think of pain. That is far more valuable, because pain drives in the current state. I want you to think about the concept of a doctor. Can we all agree, or can you and I agree, that selling is about solving a problem? And let me phrase it. Can we all agree that selling is about creating a better outcome than where somebody lives now?
Substantially better outcome. Yeah.
Okay, so we both agree with that. So if we use the metaphor of the doctor can't tell me what I need until completely and she utterly understands where I am now. What type of cancer I have, where is it in my body, how big is the mass, what type of carcinoma is it, or if it's a carcinoma versus something else, how fast it's spreading, how old am I, right? Until someone studies all of that, there's no way they can tell me what I need. Can we agree?
Yep.
So that is why I'm passionate and stuck on a label. It's not me being stuck on a label. It's me being stuck on a very real different definition. When you start telling people or letting people tell you what they need, I went to the doctor and said, I need painkillers, or I need a surgery, the doctor's like, I have no fucking idea if that's what you actually need.
Well, if you're in Florida, they'll just give it to you.
True. And see what happens and how does that turn out? Right? Good. Exactly. How does that turn out? So I think that's why I'm sticking on that, is I watch every single day companies submarine themselves on this idea that need is the same as pain or problem.
They start with, that's the problem. So in this, if we were forced to use need, if we left all of our wedges on the last hole, I left all my wedges on the last hole this week, and that's what was reminding me of that.
I'm not even.
No, I was pissed because I missed a putt. All good. Needs where we're going. It's not how we get there. And I think this is the problem that folks see this acronym and they say, oh, well, I need to get need, so I'll just ask them about need because I'm a salesperson. My job is to ask questions. So, hey, what do you need, Keenan? Well, that's dumb. And nobody ever told anybody to do that. But it's one of these things that just becomes culturally significant. Just like the whole Peter Drucker quote of you can't manage what you don't measure. Like, that's not what he meant. And he actually walked back on it a little bit later in life because people just oversimplified it and started doing really dumb things. Like, how do you measure the ROI of a smile? Oh, you can't. So people don't have to be happy. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
But you can you can measure almost anything, but I won't get a sidetrack. Keep going.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
So needs the out, and that's why I use this analogy of buckets that are being filled with water things or whatever. Like, fill the bucket up. And so if you're in a world where you're trying to get something from stage 1 of the sales process to stage 2, for example, My opinion is need is the most important bucket to fill up with things that are creating pain, because if they don't have any pain, they're not going to make a move. There's lots of things that they could go buy, lots of things they could go do or assign their employees to do, or they could, go have work-life balance like some folks want to do. There's lots of opportunities out there.
Mm-hmm.
Do you need to have budget completely dialed in stage one of your sales process? Probably not. Maybe if you sell something super transactional and you're talking to the CEO on the first call, you can get there. But if you're talking to a manager, director level person, you're going to have it fully locked in. No. So just tailoring it to how your company operates, and then leveraging the things that your company has, like we talked about before with the market segment, the personas, and the specific pain points that you solve for folks. This is how you make BANT smart. BANT out of the box, off the shelf from Walmart, don't work.
So I'm gonna give you this, right? In that, by default, BANT will happen. But the reason I'm so passionate about it is to what you said. Managers need to stop giving their people a 7-iron and expecting them to play 9 holes of golf. They need to stop. If you follow the problem qualification criteria that I threw out earlier, and you find the problem, the customer acknowledges they have the problem, they admit or acknowledge they want to fix the problem, and they go on a journey with you to fix the problem. Once you go through that whole problem exercise and you define everything, okay? Salespeople don't do that. Define it. What do you mean? The server goes down too often? What do you mean by that? Okay. Well, the server goes down at least 2 times a week. Great. How long? It goes down a lot. How long is every 2 weeks? On average of 30 minutes. Okay. How many people are on that server? Like, you got to ferret this shit out. Okay. But once you get all of that information, all of a sudden, like the freaking clouds departing and the sun coming down, BANT reveals itself. It reveals itself. So if all of a sudden I find this stupid server example, I find a $2.3 million a year problem from the server being down. I find out the customer service impacts. I found out the lost revenue impacts. I find out the maintenance impacts. I find the impacts and costs to everything else, blah, blah, blah. I look them in the eye and say, listen, thank you for this. Our product or service solves that. And I don't even have to tell them this, but let's say my product or service for the size of this company, what they're dealing with is $95,000 a year. The problem is $2.5 million. Budget off the table. Next up. Okay.
Well, that's easy, because whatever budget you give them, the ROI on that's going to be massive. Probably.
That's my point. That's exactly my point. Why budget doesn't matter. It's why I'm so.
Well, it does matter. It does matter though, because you've got to get
not from a selling exercise. Like I said, it shows itself automatically. I don't have to focus on it. It just shows up. It's served up to me on a silver platter. So when someone, you got it a second ago, Corey, you literally said, well, yeah, no matter what it is, the ROI is so huge, right? They're not going to talk about budget.
Well, as long as you can get the rest of the group bought into that and they all agree with it, yes. But
yes. But that's our job as salespeople, right, Corey?
Yes.
So budget is already served up on a platter. Now let's go to authority. I'm going to put that aside for a second, but then we go to need. Well, I've established a need because I just told you that you have a $2.5 million problem. Right. So that and that problem or that need is based on your servers and all kinds of other shit I want to get into. Right. Then the timing. Well, how long do you want to continue to lose $2.5 million a year? Yep. So when you combine all of that by finding the problem, measuring the problem, BANT is done. So even in a BANT organization, we got asshats are running around what's BANT. Stop putting it on the fucking front end and let them go find the problem. And when they answer the problem, BANT is literally served up like caviar in a fucking silver plate. Blub, 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 blub. Here you go.
Which goes back to my whole original point, which is by the time you get to the proposal stage, that's your exit criteria. And the whole idea is getting what you need across the course of the sales process, filling up those buckets as much as you need to fill them up based on how your company operates, based on if it's inbound or outbound, how aggressive you get with filling the buckets up at each stage, and asking good questions, which we're definitely agreeing on. I think the one thing that is a shortcut for that server example is there's 2 approaches, right? So you could do the Columbo approach of, asking a bunch of consecutive open-ended questions of how long is the server down, blah, 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 blah. Another approach is you could say, oh, your servers are down. Usually when someone's servers are down, they're either frustrated that they're close to hitting their SLA fault points with their customers, or they got the phones hanging off the rack and something else bad's happened, or either of those things happen. And so what we're doing there is we're finding pain and we're creating rapport at the same time, because I'm showing you that I know your business. I don't really know your business. I know that there's 5 pain points that we solve for when servers go down. And I'm just repeating what those are.
Exactly. 100%. I call that the pick. Yes. So really, here's the interesting piece. You believe in BANT as an outcome.
Yes.
Right? And I do too. As an outcome, of course, no one's not going to, you can't make the sale if someone doesn't write a check. So right? But those are outcomes. BANT as a selling process, BANT as an action in any way, shape, or form.
Well, it's not an action. It's a qualification framework.
What?
It's qualification framework. That's it. It's like you get.
Well, some people say keep going. Sorry.
No, exactly. I think we're saying the same thing now, which is fascinating. You're getting it as a result of the prospect telling you things.
Yes, but it's not a qualification process because it can come much later.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah. Well, I think this is where the semantics get in, right? If someone thinks they got to get it in the first meeting, they're misguided. If someone thinks they've got to get it in complete depth in the first meeting, they're misguided. It's the same thing when you're looking at, BANT's cousin is medic. So the thing I like to say is if thinks BANT doesn't work, medic doesn't work. Well, you're not going to get decision criteria and decision process and paper process anywhere near the first part of their sales process.
No.
You're probably not going to get paper process till meeting 4, 5, 6, or 100. Who knows when you're going to get that? But the whole idea is what do I need now? What do I need next? What do I need then? And that's why I just make this really clear thing to exit criteria, because if you don't have that, it's not locked in, it's not inspected, it's not coached to, it's not going to work.
So I agree. So let's think about this though. Do you really need BANT? So if I have exit criteria that says, does a problem exist? Yes. Define the problem. Okay. Now, if you're in a really analytical environment, you might say, okay, can the problem be measured to the fact of 10x our cost? I mean, I'm just making up on the fly, right?
Sure.
Okay, good. Yes, it can. Check. Okay. So then the next piece somewhere in there, is this problem big enough that if they don't solve it in the next 6 months or less, the impact to them is astronomical? Yes or no? Right. So my point is, I don't need the BANT at all. It's just not necessary, because if I get the yes to these questions, then BANT happens automatically. And guess what? By guiding my team to have conversations, use vernacular, ask questions like you do, etc., to around the problem, then that's what they'll do. But if I keep going to, is the budget there, they are not going to focus their attention and time on what matters. So that's why I say, get rid of it. It's fucking sales.
So let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
Imagine you're a sales manager at a company. Let's call it SaaS Tech.
Ooh, I'm surprised there isn't a SaaS Tech already.
It's the company I use in my books.
Okay.
So imagine that you're a manager at SaaS Tech and you got the CRO. CRO is old school. CRO has been around for a while. CRO comes in fairly heavy-handed on the process side and says, look, we're going to do things the way I've done them. I've been successful in my career. I'm writing things out, and this is what we're going to roll with. What do you do as a frontline sales manager?
I teach my team to do what I just said. Go out and get the problem, right? And go out and define the problem, make sure they admit they have the problem, get them working with you to solve the problem. Then when it comes time to fill out that little piece of the box, right, that says, do they have budget? You can't check that box until you can tell me, Corey or Jennifer, that you know how you've defined the size of the problem.
How did you know my weekend name?
Dude, I got inside help, dog. What I didn't tell everybody is the skirt you were wearing while you were putting, right? But I digress. I think it comes from how you drink. They said 2 drinks in your lightweight, you're out. So I would say, until you can tell me that the size and scope of the current problem they're facing is at least 10x what we charge, you can't check the budget box. Right? Because again, I am not.
That's your exit criteria. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, no one argues exit criteria. We're arguing the use of BANT.
Yeah. So and 10x is being very specific around what it needs to be. Because I think that the budget isn't. It can't be. Oh, what's the number? Like, Okay, cool. So what's the number? So what you're saying is, in this case, mold it to the organization, mold it how they operate. Maybe it's a number, maybe it's 10x, maybe it's who releases it, maybe when it's available, maybe it's what the freaking payment terms are. I don't know. If your services business, that matters more. So those are the types of things that, stick it in the field.
Yeah, because my point is this: if I'm trying to make it buyer centric, not seller centric. So the buyer may have a budget, okay, of $100,000. I'm making shit up, right?
Sure, good budget.
But if I know that their problem is 10x or greater than that $100,000, but my product costs $200,000, I'm not worried about the budget anymore. That's my point. My goal should not be to get the customer to admit to a budget. My goal should be able to find a problem so large that what I charge is easy to justify, so they will go find the budget. Yep. That's where I need to be. So that's how I would handle that with you. I would, if I had that CRO like you talked about, and I would only do that for about 3 months before I quit and went somewhere else. But right,
love that. Start looking.
Fuck you, I'm not doing that shit. So then same thing with need and same thing with timing. I wouldn't say tell me what the need is or tell me what the timing is. I don't want to know if the customer wants it done next week. I want to know, you need to come to me and tell me what's the cost of the customer not getting it solved in the first 6 to 8 months. And if that is massive, then I'm comfortable saying the timing is going to be what we want it to be. Do you see what I'm saying? I don't lean on those. I lean on the buyer. Here's why I'm going to give you a couple of pieces of information, and it'll be interesting, right? So this is from a study of 1,200 buyers from director all the way up to CEO and from all functional groups, from procurement, IT, HR, etc. 26.7% of people start the buying process without any idea of what the scope and size of the problem is. Okay? You use BANT in that environment, you're fucked. Okay? Next one. 68% of people rescope a business problem at least 1 to 2 times. 28% of people rescope a problem 3 to 4 times after the sale is started, and 13.3% rescope it 5 to 6 times. If you think you're going to use BANT and be successful in that fucking varying environment, you're fucked, right? I got another one for you. 47.6% of all buyers have bought the wrong product because they properly didn't understand the problem they were solving. That's almost half, right? And I believe that's a result of BANT. Another one, 60.6, so 60, just under 2/3 of all people bought a product or service they didn't know they needed until after their engagement with the salesperson. If you're using BANT in any of these scenarios, you're fucked. So, and then I got a whole bunch more stats on how buyers value BANT type questions in their decision process. Budget, authority, and they don't. Bottom of the list. Bottom. So for those of you who are analytical folks, I give you that.
Those are some numbers.
Corey's like, fuck, Keenan. You came prepared.
I like it. I like a man that does his research. That's good. Good for
I only look and act dumb. I keep people off their fuck, keep people on the guard.
No, that was good. That was good. No, I mean, the stats make a lot of sense. I understand. I mean, I don't dispute those. I'll tell you one thing that those stats tell me, though, is people waste a lot. I was talking about this several times in the last couple of weeks, that people spend so much freaking time evaluating vendors and so little time actually making projects successful. And I think that's where the whole idea of BANT, for example, it's like, oh, we're going to figure out what we're going to do. And then, oh, let's do BANT because, Tom did BANT, since 93. And
Yep.
Clinton. Yeah. Let's go back to the good old days. And then all of a sudden you're in this world where you spend all this time thinking about it, negotiating with sales ops to change the fields and all this other stuff. And then, new project popped up. Then they don't enable it. Mm-hmm. And maybe what would happen, Keenan, just to give you some raw meat here, is maybe if people spend a little more time on post-implementation, let's say that they're putting BANT into place, for example, if they spend a little more time on it, enablement around post-implementation, they'd realize a lot of the things that you're bringing up. And all of a sudden they'd be like, wait a second, the dream that we had in La La Land in the conference room isn't actually working in reality. And maybe we should go revisit that.
Amen, my young brother.
Young. Shit.
freaking
How old do you think I am?
42,
Oh,
42.
wow. That was a compliment. I'm 39. I appreciate it.
I'm in the ballpark.
You're in the ballpark.
But to me, you're a young man. Way young man. Yes. I'm
Still got all my natural here.
Yes. Technically speaking, I could be your dad.
Wow.
Mhm.
You would have been a really cool middle schooler.
I was 16 when you were born. I'm 55, dog.
Oh shit, you look great.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I'm old. Well, okay. I can't say, people tell me I can't say that or I'll actually start looking old. Yeah, I'm 55. So I think that puts me 16 years older than you. So yeah, I would have been young, but I was in middle school. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Well, this keeps you young, chopping it up about things that are somewhat interesting.
Truth. Okay, so let's do this. Let's take some, unless you have any thoughts or anything you want to add, let's just take some questions from folks.
Yeah, let's go.
All right, who's got questions?
Should I be seeing this on LinkedIn? I'm not on LinkedIn.
Yeah, we had a good showing. Just so you know, you don't get a lot of people on LinkedIn. We got over 100 people watching this thing, which is rare for these.
Sweet.
Yeah. Thank you, James Cuervo. Oh, no way. His name's James Cuervo. Oh, that's the best. Woo, Jaime Cuervo. Please tell me your brother's name is Jose. Just please tell me your brother's name is Jose. So let's see what you got for questions, guys. We're going to run a few minutes and answer some of your questions. No, James, I'm not 65. Jesus Christ. If I was 65, I looked this good. I'd be in the movies. Okay, that's about all I'm going to say.
Yeah. Tom Cruise, man, that guy, whatever he's doing, he's got a blood boy. I guarantee it.
Yeah, you know what I think is doing even better than him though is Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
He's 58, I think. 58.
Jennifer Aniston. Have you seen Jennifer Aniston?
She's not. I'm not saying a word.
Okay.
Nope. I'm not going down the lady road. I do not need to. If I say she looks good, I'm in trouble. If I say she looks bad, I'm in trouble. Not going down that road at all.
I was just saying that she's aging very nicely. That's all I was saying.
Okay. But we did start with men aging nicely. So if anybody wants to turn this to a feminine thing, they're not paying attention because we're being equal opportunity.
We're talking about BANT here.
Yeah, let's get back to you. Okay. So here's a question. Dimitri says, how can I use need and BANT as Trojan horse for gap selling? You can't. I'll let Corey answer this segment. But listen, if you haven't heard a damn thing I said, stop fucking using BANT. Period. Like, you don't need a Trojan horse. You simply are straight with a buyer and you literally say, hey, can you walk me through what's going on around whatever area you're talking about? Corey did a great job of explaining. You already know what problems you solve. You already know where you play. So just use that to go in. So unless I'm misunderstanding this question, Corey,
I don't like the word Trojan horse because it implies that you're trying to trick somebody. And
amen.
The minute you're trying to, my dad always told me, the minute you're trying to screw somebody, you're going to get screwed twice as hard.
I like your dad.
Yeah, that's not a good. He has a friend that, my favorite story that he told me during that same conversation. He has a friend, we were talking about gambling. He has a friend that won a Pizza Hut in a poker game in the 70s. And then he was all happy. And then he was all scared because he was like, how do you tell the IRS that I just won a Pizza Hut in a poker game?
Yeah. And then, a great call. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. But Trojan, don't try to trick people. It's not, your job's not to manipulate. Job's not to do any of that stuff. It's simply to get the truth. And you can guide people. You can take the horse to water and try to help uncover what their truth is. But the minute you start trying to trick and manipulate, you're doing it wrong.
Okay, I apologize. Thank you, Dimitri. He means not for the prospect, he needs with his management. So I think what he's saying is, how do I get gap selling into my company? And yeah, I think that's what he's trying to say.
Well, here's one thing that you could do with the management. So I do this with sales enablement teams that demand to use Medic because a lot of people do. I'm like, all right, here's what I want y'all to do. Show, because you can use Medic with sales methodology. So you can, I don't know gap selling that well, but I'm certain that you could have Medic sitting next to it and it could survive. Like, sure. Because I know you can with triangle selling. Like, we got a bunch of triangle selling clients. You got Medic, you got triangle selling. Sure, whatever. Like, take some stuff from this, put it over here, whatever you can call it. Put lipstick on the horse.
Yep.
But what the goal here needs to be that you get them to tell you what good looks like and what bad looks like in the context of different types of deals. And because they need to define it, because if you go out and you say, look, here's what we're trying to get with BANT or what we're trying to get with Medic or anything, and you only show what good looks like, there's no second data point. You can't draw a line from one dot. you can draw a line from 2 dots. So get that
Yep.
other dot of here's what good looks like. Here's what people do sometimes that bad looks like. And then you can calibrate what you've got versus what it should be.
Current
Get
state,
them to do
future
that.
state. Current state, future state.
Yeah. Get them to do that work for you. And I mean, you could do it too, but I always like to, when people are trying to tell me to do something dumb, I always like to push back on them and say, okay, well, show me what good looks like, show me what bad looks like. And then they can't, and then it's fun.
Okay. Gap sell me on BANT, Keenan. If I haven't done that in the last hour, I don't know what else to say to you. So we got another question. What do you do when the client's being wishy-washy with the problem? So I always hate these up. I'm a big fan of follow-up questions. Very rarely do I answer a question right away. They ask me a question and I ask 2-3 more questions to qualify exactly what they're trying to understand. However, that being said, I'm going to define wishy-washy as not giving you a lot of data and they're not really being very specific. So what I do is I use something called bracketing. So if I say to you, Corey, hey, just have fun. Okay, what's your handicap? And you're like, it's too low. And I'm like, well, what's too low? And you're like, it's not really what I want it to be. It goes all over the place. I'm like, well, can you be specific? And you're like, no, I really don't know what it is. It's just kind of all over the place because I know you're hiding it. So I know what a handicap is. And so I'm going to start with what was. So are you like 100? You're like, oh, no, I'm not that bad. Right. Then I might say, so are you like a scratch golfer? Oh, no, I'm not a scratch golfer. Yeah. So then usually what happens when I bracket it, you'll finally break. You're like, all right, I'm around a 12, right? Or if you still don't break, I now know you're not 100 and I now know you're not a scratch. So I can say, so is it fair? Would you say you're more in the single digits or are you more in the low double digits? And I've just nailed you. You can't escape it now. So that's how I do. I just bracket it. And 99% of the time I get close enough. I don't need it to be precise. Once I know if you're a 12 or 13 versus a 5 or 6, I know where to go, right? So I don't care if you're a 12 or a 14. I don't care if you're a 5 or a 9. It doesn't matter. The return on investment, where you play, the current state are all pretty much going to be similar. And I run with that range and it works every time. Yeah, that works. Another thing you can do is, so if I'm selling Coach CRM to somebody and they're being wishy-washy and they're like, I don't know. It looks cool. One of my favorite things to do is you ask people permission to ask a direct question. So if I say, hey, Keenan, can I ask you a direct question? If we're in the middle of a sales meeting, he's going to say yes, pretty much 100% of the time. Yep. And so I might say something like, look, usually at this point in the conversation, I'm hearing one of 2 things. Either folks are really concerned that their managers aren't coaching effectively and they're super anxious about their ability to promote new managers into this role. Like, I haven't heard any of those so far. I'm curious if it makes sense to keep digging into this or not. Mm-hmm. And it is get the truth. And but the trick here is, it's not a trick, it's a fact. You got to know what pains you solve for different people. If you don't know that, you can't ask questions like that. 100%. Go grab my pick chart, problem identification chart. You'll love it. What we do with our clients is we force them to write down the problems they solve. Because you said earlier, there's only 3, 4, or 5 problems almost any product or company solves. Yep. Then what we do is we say, write down the impact in the next column. If those problems exist, how do they manifest themselves into impacts? Then we go to the next column and say, what are the root causes? What are the technical problems or root causes that create the business problems? And first off, you'd be amazed. I've worked with Fortune 20 companies all the way down to startups, and almost never can they get it on the first try. It's hard, and they don't really think that way. So, well, you know what the crazy thing is? If it's hard for the people that work at the company, think how hard it is for the prospect that spent 30 minutes with you. Yeah. And this is why it's really about being able to ask good questions in the right way to fill up. If you have to use BANT, since that's the topic we're talking about, to have to fill out that need bucket, if you're not asking the question in a way that's easy for them to understand what you're asking and easy for them to answer, they got to think about how many mental gymnastics someone has to go through to take your benefit that you're talking about and tie that back to their pain that they're trying to solve for. Oh, well, you said this, so that it's like that. Remember Zach Galifianakis is playing blackjack in The Hangover and he starts seeing calculus formulas in his mind? Yes. Yeah, it's like that. And that's not going to happen. No, they're just going to be like, oh, cool. Let me get back to you. Send me some information. Bye-bye. So to your point, that's why I advocate, don't talk about your product. Like, I'm on a mission before my freaking little ass dies, that if I can stop salespeople from ever talking about their product until they've identified the size of the problem and defined the problem, the world will change. because it doesn't convolute things. Again, it's like a doctor. A doctor does not talk to me about radiation or surgery or exercise or medication. They never talk about any of that shit until at least one long conversation. Sometimes it's a conversation, then it's an MRI, then it's a test, then it's a blood test. Like there's 2-3 visits. Is that a fair statement, Corey? Before the doctor finally says, okay, this is what we are currently dealing with. This is the impact to you if it goes untreated. This, understanding this, here is my recommendation. Sales doesn't work that way. Us knuckleheads at sales go, hey, oh, okay, I've got MRIs. I've got chemo, I've got surgery, I've got medication. I think the medication is best. Our medication is better than someone else's. And they spend 2 minutes saying, oh yeah, you got a pain in your stomach? I got you. That's how sales works. So for the love of God, separate it, everybody. Yeah. Just separate it.
No good. Well, this was fun.
It was a good time, bro.
Yeah. Is this how you thought it was going to go?
No. I'm not sure how I thought it was going to go, but it wasn't like this.
Love it.
How about you?
That was great. Yeah. I figured we just have a lively debate and eventually get somewhere. And like I said from the top, it's not my goal in life is not to get people around the BANT. But I think that one thing I'm real passionate about is if you're in a situation using a certain set of tools, you got to figure out how to use the tools. You can't just scream and try to change the tools, especially if you don't have the power to do that. So hopefully some folks that are in those situations today got something out of it. And I love what you said about do it for 3 months and then quit. If you don't like where you're at, get out of there.
Get out.
But try to get it.
Cool. I think it's cool too. Everybody needs to know. And I don't know how this didn't happen. So just think how many more of these are out there. But everybody, Corey and I had never spoken a word to each other before today.
No.
So I don't know if we even commented on each other's stuff before. I have no idea. We may have, I don't recall. But I've never, before Corey showed up and basically was diving in and trying to defend BANT or whatever, I didn't know who he was. And here we are. And I thought this went great. You'd think we've been friends for years. Great camaraderie and back and forth. Super witty guy. Love witty people. So it was a pleasure meeting you, my man.
You too. Let's do it again.
I'm down. All right, everybody. Listen, I hope you found this valuable. The comments kind of blew up. I couldn't read them all that fast. But Corey, man, thanks. I'll get you this recording. You can put on your podcast. I'll use it as well. And until next time, my man, peace.
Sounds good. See ya.